Shalom Aleichem, this is Avraham. Shira, welcome. We're in our continuing learning in Rabbi Nachman on a daily basis on Patreon, but today we're gonna jump the text over onto our Shabbat class because it's so outrageous. This whole ladder that we're going to climb in this Torah, we started yesterday, and I just made notes. There's 20 stages in the staircase to Messiah, and I'm going to go through them fast. It's like a roller coaster, and we're going to learn inside and outside the text, but hang on, put on your seatbelt. So the first idea is Tikkun Brit. We learned yesterday when a person has Tikkun Brit, then he merits to true prayer. His lower power is elevated to his mouth. His body's power is elevated to the power of prayer. And then prayer leads us to emunah, because when you pray and you see things that happen, it gives you emunah. And then when emunah happens, guess what? You arrive to the level of Tfilat Keren Mashiach, the beginning of the sprouting of the power of Moshiach. So that when a person gets his power of prayer back, it's a spark of the Messiah itself. It's a spark. It's not the whole deal. But when you get your prayer back and your prayer has power and faith, that's a spark of Messiah. And that leads us to the Messiah being included with Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, because the Messiah is the power of prayer, was the power of Malchut, which is your mouth, attached to the Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet, attached to the powers of emotion and intellect. So when all of your being is attached to prayer, that is the expression of the power of Messiah in the individual. Okay, so what happens next? You get true speech. Not just prayer, but true speech, that what you say without praying becomes this level of Kedusha. That you don't have to have intention, okay, now I'm going to talk to God. But rather you simply speak and it becomes holy speech. And after this, we come to Dibor Shen Osei Ben Chorim. Well, when you have this level of speech, you're a free human being. You're truly free from the physical. You are become master of your own physical. And most likely, most of the physical around you. So that's that freedom that you get from having that release of messianic speech. Okay, what happens the next level? Well, after you get that freedom, you lead to Shabbat. Shabbat is the space of freedom in time. So Shabbat is where there's no work. So that's obviously a little more free than when you got to show up to work. So that's the concept shifted over into time and space, which is Shabbat. Okay, that idea of freedom. Okay, so where do we go? The next part of the ladder, when you have this level of freedom, you have this level of Shabbat, the Kedushat of Shabbat leads you to the Tachlit Yediyah, the purpose of all knowledge, Shelo Neda. It's a wonderful Rabbi Nachman paradox. The tachlis, the purpose of all knowledge, is to know that we don't know. Well, that's pretty easy. We look at ourselves, look how full of the world is of knowledge, and I can easily come to the conclusion, I don't know anything. But it's not simply not knowing knowledge. It's not knowing the present reality that's in front of us. What's going to be the next minute? What's going to be the next phone call, the next operation, the next action? We don't know. It's there. It's going to happen. We don't know what it is. But that's the purpose of knowledge, to know that I don't know. Why? Because when you know that you don't know, we said this in our class on Patreon, on divine inspiration and meditation, that when you get to this Tachlit Yediyah, when you really you don't know, then you've created a space for true knowing. And true knowing is not yours. It's a gift given to you. And that true knowing is a divine thing. So that's the Tachlit Yediyah Shelo Neda. And going further in our staircase, then we come to the verse says that Shabbat Tachlit Shemayim Va'aretz. That same language, Tachlit, this is called a Hekesh in Hebrew, where they connect different verses by a similar word. So when you have Tachlit Shabbat, Shemayim Va'aretz, that the whole purpose of Shabbat is when heaven and earth are one. That the Gan Eden that we talk about, that we dream about, that we hear about, is no longer out of reach. It's right here in the physical world. So where the physical and the spiritual become one, that's the ultimate Shabbat, and that's the tachlit of Shabbat. So now we have the purpose of knowledge is to know that I don't know, and the purpose of Shabbat is to unify heaven and earth. Well, what happens when you touch that level? You come to the level of Ikar HaChokhmah Ladat Shelachu Rachokim MiChokhmah. Similar to knowing that true knowing is knowing you don't know, the true wisdom is to know you are far from wisdom. Now, how can you say that? You spent your whole life learning books and listening to other teachers and absorbing chokhmah, wisdom, and all different types of wisdom from all over the world, not just Jewish wisdom and Kabbalistic wisdom, but there's many types of wisdom. And how can, after a lifetime of learning that, can you say, I know that I'm far from wisdom? We shouldn't be far after you learn it all. No, but we don't understand how it works. That when you can consume and receive wisdom your entire life, but the very next moment, it's like in your bank account, it's gone. If you don't have the code, you can't access the wisdom. In other words, the purpose of wisdom, I know I'm still far from the wisdom. The wisdom is off in God's mind. And I've got to tap back in to the mind of the Creator to get back to the wisdom that I've been learning my whole life. So it's a constant return to knowing that I'm far from it, and that's, with hope, we're going to get closer to it again. So it's not just remembering words in your mind and knowing verses by heart and knowing the whole Talmud and knowing every wise thing said by every wise man. That doesn't make you wise. It just means you know what they knew or what they said they knew. But to know that wisdom is far, that's the purpose of wisdom. To have, because it really sets proportion. We're setting a proportion between ourselves and heaven, between ourselves and the Creator. That I'm here, I'm little me, and I don't have to be the whole big story. I'm not the center of the story, right? Hashem is the center of creation. God is the center of the story. And that gives me perspective. And when I keep my perspective, I keep my mental health and hopefully physical health as well. So when I know that I'm far, that's the beginning of getting close. Okay, but I have to constantly return. It's a cycle, all right? And that we have to live that cycle, and it might seem like a paradox, but by living it, you solve it. I know that I'm far from wisdom, I get a little closer. I think I'm close to wisdom, I'm far. But knowing that I'm far, I'm setting the proportionality between the relationship between me and the wisdom of the universe. Now, after we get to that idea that we're far from wisdom, guess what? He gives us another ultimate purpose, the Ikar HaMakom, the true address, the true place is God. It's not my address, it's not my home, it's not where I work, it's not planet Earth, it's not the Milky Way. The true Makomo is Makomo Shel Olam. The place of the world is the true address of creation. Okay, Tachlit HaMakiv Olam Shenivra B'Chokhmah. And then he takes us to another level. Another step in this staircase to the Messianic realm. That wisdom surrounds this world. And so when we want to reach and touch some wisdom, we've got to leave our little address. I've got to rise up. Well, how do I do that? I'm stuck in my body. I can meditate. That's going to help. I'm going to pray. That's going to help. I'm going to learn some Torah. That's going to help. But I'm still here doing it. I need to have what's called, by the CIA, remote viewing, right? I need to be able to see way up high. Okay, so this Makif Olam, this is Chokhmah. And now he comes back to a very standard halacha that everybody in the yeshiva world knows about, a kovea makom letefilato. That there is this way, this place that we fix our place of prayer. That when you walk in a building that you pray in, that building knows your place. And when you fix your place of prayer, you set up that as your portal, your personal entry point into the upper realm. So, kovea makom letfilato, the Talmud says, oivav noflim lifanav. His enemies fall away. Just by having your place of prayer, your special little zone of prayer, your enemies fall. Now, not that we want enemies, we're not looking for enemies, but unfortunately there are people that don't they don't like us. Okay, we'll get over it. but they fall away when we have this place of prayer. But now he's going to tell you the Hiddush. Hakovea makom letfilato. You're the makom shalom. When you fix the place of God as your place of prayer. That where do you pray when you pray? You're praying in God. That's your address. That's your synagogue. That's your Dalet Amos, your 4 Amos, It's like the prophet Amos? No. It's your 2 meters square, right? Your true place of prayer is inside Hashem. But how often do I remember that? How often do I think it? I don't feel it. I feel I got to go to shul to pray. I got to go to the Kotel to pray. I run over to Kever Dan. We did a class at Kever Dan. We'll be broadcasting this week, right, to pray. We went over to Kever Rachel 2 weeks ago. We broadcast that. We go to these places to pray, but all these places are to get us to this address. Makom Moshel Olam. That's the place of prayer. And where does this take us? Back to Shabbat. Because remember, Shabbat is the time of this ascension. And what does he say? Al Yetzei Adam Ish Mekomo B'Yom Shabbat. That one of the laws of Shabbat is we don't go outside the boundary of Shabbat, which is about 1 kilometer, 1,000 meters, right? 10 football fields. So you don't go farther than that on Shabbat, and you have an Eruv, that's the boundary that we honor. Okay. So that we can carry. But the point is, in the desert, the idea was you don't leave your tent even. You don't leave your place. But when your place is God, that means on Shabbat, you don't leave God. You don't leave God on Shabbat. He is the true address. So you see how the brilliance Rabbi Nachman takes these everyday halachot that we've learned for thousands of years, and he turns them into deep spiritual teachings about our service, about prayer itself. Don't leave God on Shabbat. And then guess what happens? A bigger deal. Poshet gufo. He strips off his physical body. This is where the action starts to happen. And ulovesh bigdei Shabbat. This is what we do this afternoon. We're going to put on our Shabbat clothes. But the real Shabbat clothes is not physical. It's not cotton, and it's not cashmere, and it's not wool. Right? We're stripping off the body, the physical body that we know so well. We forget that we're just visitors in our bodies for 100 years. But there's this ability in the spiritual, in meditation and prayer especially, to strip off the physical body, lovesh bigdei Shabbat. That's in the Lashon of the Hachamim, that's the Halukah de Rabbanan, the cloak of the rabbis. Now they say that when a person passes away, if he's righteous, he gets to don, to attire himself with his Halukah de Rabbanan. You get a new garment to ascend into the spiritual realm. And that garment is like a ticket. It's like your little mini spaceship in the spiritual realm. And if you have one, you're in good shape. And if you don't, you're going to be looking around feeling a little bit naked. And so this is why our spiritual service now. What is your Olam Haba? It's exactly what you build here now. There's no fancy, dogmatic explanation of, my world to come. No, your world to come is exactly what you build here. If you're happy here, you'll create happiness there. You'll go to that happiness there. It's your energy field that you create here is what you inherit there. So if you're not happy, the Hafetz Chaim says, don't think that your Olam Haba is going to be happy. You'll be in the auditorium where everybody's sad. You might have done all the mitzvot. You're a righteous Jew. But if you're not happy, then your Olam Haba will be an Olam Haba without happiness. Baruch haba, welcome, wonderful. Who wants that? Nobody. So we have to understand, it's not hocus pocus Kabbalah. It's very practical, logical, reasonable. That we create the energy by our good deeds, Torah, Tefillah, Masim Tovim, Mitzvot Masiot, all the things we do, the good actions that we do. And this is true for non-Jews as well. And don't let anybody ever tell you that non-Jews don't have a world to come. It might be a different address, but it's in the same realm, okay? Because there's millions of layers. It's the condo that has no end, okay? And everybody gets their apartment and their floor. And if you're a righteous non-Jew, you get exactly what you build there too. That's one of the dogmas that's spread around, if you know what I mean. Okay, so then now, when you get this big day Shabbat that we've exchanged from our physical daily weekday body, what do you get next? The Rebbe says, Guf Kadosh Migan Eden, a holy body from the Garden of Eden. Now that is not a physical place. So you're not going to get a physical body from a physical place. You get the new body that will be your spiritual inheritance for what we call El Shvi'i, the 7,000 year, the 1,000th year redemption that we call the Great Shabbat, where the whole creation reaches its Shabbat. And that we're promised that that's to begin in about 220 years. It's not so far, right? In Jewish time, 220 years is nothing. It looks too long for me. Well, I can make it, I'll walk in 270. Well, I'll be 290 then. Whatever. No, I won't. Do the math. It doesn't matter. The point is to prepare ourselves now. So when you get this goof from Gan Eden, you're getting a new ship, a new body of transportation, a new ability to exist in this universe at a level that we have no idea. Ain lo ra'ata zulatecha. Right? The eye has not seen it. But here, the Rebbe is telling us about it. So obviously, maybe he's not seen it, but, he's got a very good sense of what's going on. Because everything follows a logical structure. You see what we've learned today, now 20 steps in the staircase to the Messianic realm. Each one follows very nicely from the previous. And we're not making it up, it's too hard to make up. The imagination can't go there. So when you get this goof from Gan Eden, this body, this spiritual body from Gan Eden, that's your ultimate Shabbat. And then he brings a beautiful idea. You're stripping off all the impurities that we gathered in this world, all the sins we've done, all the negativity that we've picked up is completely gone. And guess what? You exist in the phrase that Adam was told, that we're told in the Chumash, basaromi basari. When Adam and Eve were created, of course, they were created as one. They were male, female in one person. That's why we say Chava, Eve, was created from Adam, because they were one at one point. They named all the animals while they were one, and then Eve got split off and they became male and female. So we return to Ze basar mi basari, that this is my flesh of my flesh, that Adam said about Chava. Well, God is going to say it about every single person. And that's awesome. And that's something worth working for in this world. That you and God become one at the level that He says that about you. That your flesh and His flesh are one. Now, there are echoes of other religions in these teachings, because they got them from somewhere. And Judaism is, of course, the source. So I'm glad I had this time to share this with you. Shabbos is coming. The sun is falling. I smell things in the kitchen. There's work to be done. But the ultimate Shabbos is also coming. And even if it's only 220 years, let's get together. Let's get the work done even sooner, because we can bring in that Shabbat early. There is a halacha like that. I could start Shabbat right now. I can make Kiddush in 5 minutes if I wanted to. But that might cause some turmoil in the family. So we're not going to do that. But the idea of bringing on Shabbat early is to bring these levels now. And the work is the work. It's in front of us. It's prayer. It's like he said, it's sexual purity. It's prayer. It's faith. It's the sprouting of Messiah. It's the inclusion with the Avot. It's the idea of true speech. It's the true speech that leads to freedom. Freedom leads to Shabbat. Shabbat leads to the purpose of creation. The purpose of creation to know that we don't know, so we make a place for true knowing. The purpose of wisdom is to know I'm far from wisdom. That God is the place of the world, that He's our address, that I go to that address to pray. That's my true place of prayer. And that's why I don't leave Hashem on Shabbat. And then when we don't leave Shabbat, guess what? We change garments. It's, every actor knows about this. You go in, you change your garments. Got a different scene. Well, there's a different scene coming to the entire creation. And this is the hope for all humanity and for all Judaism. God bless all of you. Shabbat Shalom. We'll see you this coming week on Shabbat, on Shabbat. Well, there is a Shabbat. Every day as a little Shabbat, right? On Facebook and Patreon and YouTube and AvrahamShira.com. And look for us. There's new things coming out all the time. Shabbat Shalom.